Want me to open up the waiting room, Caitlin?
Yes, please.
You got it.
All right. I see that we are starting to let our participants in, and our waiting room is opened up. So let's go ahead and kick off the meeting. Welcome, everyone. This is our CASH Statewide School Facility Monthly Meeting. My name is Julie Arthur, and I'm the CASH Chair. And as you know, we've been doing our monthly meetings. We've gone virtual Zoom meetings since March, and they've actually worked out okay. So we're very proud that we're still able to share with our members and connect our local agencies that we work for with you. So very nice. Now, if we have any new time members for first-time attendees or anything, if you'd like to, go ahead and put your name, introduce yourself in the chat box, which is down below. Make sure you hit all panelists so we can kind of just briefly say who you are, what company you're with, and what your company does. It'd be great. What I'll do is I'll come back to that at the end of the monthly meeting, and we'll kind of read out and introduce you a little bit. So great. Thank you. All right, next slide. So, yeah. So what we see for your reference, CAS has been created a COVID-19 resource page with information from all of our state agencies, the weekly webinars that we've been doing, news articles, and some of our web shops as well. So if you have a chance, go on to the CASH website, go to the COVID-19 link, and take a look and scroll through there of what we have. All right, let's see, we have, next step, we're a little out of order here. We've got our CASH networking events. So if you have a chance, take a look at when our email comes out. All kinds of information included in the email of what's happening. You're going to see how to sign up to webinars, how to sign up for our virtual fall conference coming up. So take a look at those. You're also going to see some professional opportunities, and make sure that you take a look at that email. So, all right, next slide. Okay, our division, all right, we're jumping a little bit here. Okay, going back now. Oh, that's where I think we should be. Great. So the virtual fall forum topics are designed to help you continue to serve your school facility needs in the time of uncertainty with presentations. We're going to have a federal outlook issues from Bob Canavan from the Federal Management Strategies Incorporation. And then we're also going to have our California Economic Outlook with Mark Schnepp. He is the principal with California Economic Forecast. So we'll have COVID-19 funding related issues. We're going to have lessons learned from reopening by that time in October. Most of our schools will have reopened in one form or another. We're going to have some lessons learned on those and how we can prepare for the future and what's ahead with state and national legislation and elections. So registration is now open on our CASH website, and hopefully you go there, click on the link and get registered. All right, next slide, please. Okay. Well, we're going to jump over and let's go to one more slide. And I don't know that I don't think, there we go. That's where we'd like to be. Super. So next we have John Gordon, and he's with the California Department of Education. He's going to share an update with us. Hey, John, why don't you come on aboard, start your video, and let us know what's happening.
I need the host to disable my video. I guess that's the prompt I'm getting when I click.
So there we go. Super. Excellent.
Good morning. Well, here we go. So the Department of Education, a couple of things I'd like to share. As you can see, I'm not Fred Yeager. Fred Yeager has retired. And we are in the process of actually hiring his replacement, as well as a couple of other ed admin positions. So we have actually we have two in our office. One is focused on policy, and then the other one is field operations. And so we are in the process of hiring those positions. The application period for the field ops position will close the end of this month. So if you are interested in applying to be Fred's replacement, you do have to be on a list. So you can contact me directly if you'd like some more information. We're hoping to have both those positions filled by next month. Now with COVID, we are doing, the field reps are moving toward virtual site reviews. So, and this is due to limited travel. And so what this may look like for you is that you may be required to really front load a lot of the information to the field reps in advance, so we can kind of get a better idea of what we're looking at. So it, you know, whether they're maps, photos, videos, even probably upload those via box. So we're working on the parameters of what that will look like. As a result of doing the virtual field site reviews, it may require, you know, additional consultation with your field rep. We still want to look at 3 sites when we're going out and looking at sites. And so I would encourage you to, you know, engage with your field reps early and often. And we will be doing these on a case-by-case basis. The other thing that I should probably update you from the Department of Education, as you know, with the recent fires that have occurred, the state superintendent has reported out, I think as recently as yesterday, that there's currently about 45 schools in evacuation zones, and schools obviously closed due to the fire. So we're looking at, there's currently, I think, about 7 different active fires, and this is impacting schools in 11 different counties. And so CDE is monitoring the situation. We're working with the County Office of Education as well as CAL FIRE to assess the damage. We're also, within our office, we're hiring 2 positions that will be dedicated toward these to assist emergencies, and we should have those positions in place hopefully by the end of September. I should probably, you know, I really want to mention, I want to commend a lot of you school districts out there, especially in the last evacuation. My mom, she lives in Vacaville. She was, you know, threatened to be evacuated. I know a lot of schools have opened up and served as a place of people that are being displaced where they can go to. So hats off to you. And I think outside of that, I don't have anything else to share. Are there any questions?
Let's see. No, I don't see any questions in the chat box, but I'm sure if something comes up, we'll go ahead and send it on to you, John. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm just going to let you know we were supposed to have a representative from DSA on with us today, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to be here. So we will hopefully look forward to seeing him next month and hear a little bit about what's going on. We also may have him in one of our webinars coming up. So we're going to jump to the Office of Public School Construction, and we have Michael Watanabe with us. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. How are you guys today?
How are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for having us. All right, just a few updates today. So tonight's board meeting is at 4 p.m. again via Zoom. So the link is on our website, and it also will be live webcast too as well. In our EO statement, Lisa has a few updates. She's announcing to the board since the June meeting, OPSA Online is now live as of July 6th. All in this presentation with some information about OPSA Online. May priority funding round, we give all those apportionments. The fund release authorizations were due last night. With the acceptance of e-signatures and electronic submittals, it actually benefited a lot of people. We had some submittals as late as I think like 11 o'clock last night. So those districts made it in at the end of the timeline. Time extension requests. As a whole, we've been as lenient as possible with allowing districts to have time extension requests for COVID-related issues. Out of the 254 that we've processed so far, 249 of those requests were approved. Some were just a couple of days, some were several weeks up to a month. Just a reminder to everyone that when you do the extension request, don't simply just put COVID delays. It takes more time to approve those. Give us a little more detail on the nature of the delay. What's causing the delay? What issues are you having? We take a look at, we've had a few that we've had to deny. They've asked for extensions as long as a year to 2 years out from current day deadlines. So we do take those under extra scrutiny. Some of them we are declining, but we'll revisit later on as it gets closer to their actual deadlines. Some of the deadlines weren't for a year from now, and they're already asking for extensions. So just be mindful of that. But we are trying to be as lenient as possible as long as it's not impacting our deadlines. With that, we had the CT round closed. Our goal is to take those to the September board. But even with the COVID delays and extension requests, we're still seeing a lot of extension requests even today. For those deadlines. Just a reminder that those CT extension deadlines, it impacts the entire funding round. It may change who's eligible, it changes the sort orders. So we're trying to give people extra time, but just be in contact with your project manager. Let them know what you need to work on and what the delays are. And we can try to work with you if we can. But our goal is still to take the CT round to the September board. We did receive 249 applications for about 427 million. So we are oversubscribed for the program. So we'll default to the funding matrix. And then lastly, for the statement or related to that, the current priority funding request round, if we recall, we extended that to August 28th, this Friday, end of day. So you can email those requests to us. Anyone approved at tonight's board meeting also will need to submit a request, or you may get your first non-participation occurrence. With that, the treasurer has posted the fall bond sale on their website for September 2nd. So we're anticipating priority funding apportionments at the October board at the moment. And then one other announcement related to tonight's board, we have an item in there recommending reg changes, just a minor one, to add the new statute, Education Code 17463.7 for site sale proceeds. Those are for school districts who want us to take the proceeds from a sale of a site and deposit into their general fund. We are delaying that item tonight. It'll be pulled off at the board meeting. My understanding there's current trailer bill language moving through this week. That'll make a few changes and clarifying edits to the current statute. So we want to make sure any of those changes that get approved get incorporated into the cover. So we'll pull that off, hopefully bring that back to the September board instead. At the moment, for those of you who've seen the item, though, it pretty much runs pretty close to identically to what the prior statute did. You'll do a request to the board, and we'll take an item to the board to approve your request in advance of the transfer. One other note for contacting us before I go into OPSC Online. We have updated our directory of services on our webpage. It's under the Contact Us tab of our webpage. On the last page of the directory of services, you'll see all our internal email distribution lists. We just made those public so that you guys can use them, so that when you're emailing documents to OPSC, we tried to simplify it out for everybody for one core email address for all intake, and then we'll distribute it internally. But you're welcome to CC the other groups as well. People are having hard time tracking who the documents go to within the office to make sure it got to the right place. So we tried to centralize that email receipt. So that is available to everyone, and we try to keep that updated every month. Then on to OPSC Online. So we did go live on July 6th. Opened up the program. It was previously available the last 2 rounds of the CTE. We've opened it up to all of the school facility program now. Starting with the Forms 5001 through 5003, the establishment of your eligibility, updating your eligibility. At the moment, those forms are all data capture only. Our long-term programming goal is to make the enrollment data we're capturing now pre-fill future enrollment data. So we're capturing information, but it's not actually doing any enrollment projections for you or carrying the numbers from form to form. Right now it's data capture only, and then we'll do future enhancements later. But at least the form can be submitted online so that you don't have to mail in paper copies. You would still use the enrollment calculator online to run your projections, to do the math, to plug into there. We are aware of a few issues that we're working on fixing that happened after testing. It appears that districts can't choose option B for whatever reason. So we're looking into that bug. We hope to have another release out in the next 3 weeks or so to fix that, as well as a calculation issue in option B. So if you have those, let us know. We'll still take the forms by email. The PMs will save them and key them in after the fact, but you won't lose your receive date. Form 5004, your application for funding has been expanded for all programs. We allow you to link to prior design apps that were submitted also, so you can continue the same application number. Everything's designed from a wizard standpoint, so you only see questions that are relevant to what you've keyed in. If you didn't buy site, then you'll lose some of the questions that you're not eligible for. So we try to simplify it. It will take getting some used to. We are exploring for those who are used to the form and just keyed it in order. The order has changed to kind of group like kind questions together. So it will take some used to. So we'll work on some exploring some training options in the future. How to submit each of those forms and work through the system. There's a new grant calculator built into OPS Online. The grant calculator is the exact same one that we use to calculate your funding shells for going to the board. So you can key in your entire scenario and run different calcs with and without grants, and in theory, it pops out what your state share would be for the project. Another one that we've enhanced is the user management. Right now, only OPSC staff can update your superintendent and district reps. Send us an email, send us your board resolutions for the district reps. We'll update those 2 individuals. Those are the only 2 individuals that can still mail in and submit applications to OPSC. So they are the final submittal, but they can add all the delegates, consultant, architects you want to your district who can actually fill out the form for you. One issue we are finding people having is the design consultant role. We recognize that architects can check that box for you, so we are fixing that so they can sign off on that role too. We hope to have that fixed by mid-September as well. And then lastly, for future enhancements, as you work through the system, we welcome all the feedback you want to provide. Email our communications team. We'll take those, we'll consider those along with all the other comments we get for future enhancements, whatever budget we can afford. If you do encounter bugs though, we encourage you to send those to us too. Send them to the communications team. Send us the application number you're trying to key. If you can send us screenshots, details on what you're doing when the error triggered, that'll help us try to recreate the issue so that we can test it and fix those as well. So definitely send us any feedback, positive or negative, so we can consider those going forward. But we hope to enhance the use of OPS Online going forward. If your application number is already in the system, you can upload documents, you can respond to 15-day letter requests, 4-day letter requests. Pretty much any file type is acceptable to upload. The system handles up to 25 megabyte per document upload, so it handles quite a bit, but we can change that if needed. But yeah, we're excited about the system. We've been using it internally for about a year now to process your applications. We've been keying everybody's apps that we receive by mail in ourselves to make sure it's working. So, but we are internal staff. We have slightly different permissions, so we don't always see what you do. So you're welcome for your feedback. With that, that is all I had for today. Is there any questions?
Michael, I'm so excited about your system. That is just awesome news. You know, with OPSC. In fact, I was just thinking back, 2008, agendas were still being mailed out.
Yes. We were going through 30 cases of paper every single month when we were printing the agenda for everybody.
I know. Just in that 12 years, I mean, how far you guys have come technology-wise and use and ease for districts to be able to submit applications in. I just think it's fabulous. We're
proud of it. And you know, we got no extra money to fund the project. We do it with whatever we can squeeze out of our budget here and there. It's been a 3-year process, I think, to get it to where it is now. Obviously there's glitches, but you have that when you're running on a budget, but we're excited about it. And obviously there's the early and late adopters for any kind of IT system. We recognize that, but COVID really pushed things forward and put out the need for more paperless process, less office visits. So we have seen benefits internally. Our mail room, I would say we only get a couple pieces of mail per day versus the 100 or so pieces we're getting every day. So it has significant cut down on paper.
I'm seeing the same thing with our mail. I mean, it's amazing the reduction of mail now that we get. And of course, that means when you get your cash flyer mailed to you, it's even that stands out that much more. that. So no, I'm just excited. I'm just thrilled with the customer service and the technology upgrades you guys have done. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. All right, let me see. Are there any questions down here? I don't see anything in the chat room. So if anything comes up, we'll send you an email.
All right. Thank you.
Michael.
All right. Have a good day.
All right, thank you. Okay, next up we have Rebecca Curley, Nancy Chairs Espinosa, and Ian Padilla, who will be providing an update on the current legislative and regulatory issues and a maintenance network update as well. So Nancy, are you up first?
I am. I'm going to kick it off just to give folks a little bit of context.
Great, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I hope everyone's doing okay with wildfire smoke and staying safe. The legislature is in the home stretch of the legislative session. This is year 2 of its 2-year session, which always ends about a month earlier, this being an election year. The last day to pass bills is Monday, August 31st, per the California Constitution. So right now, both houses would ordinarily be very busy on their floors, passing bills from their own house and passing them and returning them to the House of Origin. Unfortunately, the Senate this morning is scrambling as there was another positive COVID case. So the session that they would have had starting at 10 a.m. is upon call of the chair. They may or may not meet today. And you know, this is just the reality that we're living in. But kudos to all of those folks in the Capitol who are continuing to persist and find ways to get the people's business done. So we do expect the legislature to adjourn on Monday, but there is a possibility that the governor could call a special session, for example, to make adjustments to the 2020-21 state budget, given the lack of additional federal economic aid. But as I mentioned, the legislature is still hard at work through Monday, despite the many precautions and setbacks related to COVID-19. So my colleague Rebecca is going to talk about some bills that we were monitoring and a big one, which is the education cleanup trailer bill. Take it away, Rebecca.
Thanks, Nancy. Happy to be with everybody this morning. Happy Wednesday. So the first bill that I wanted to mention is one that we talked a lot about at last month's meeting and also at one of the recent cash web shops. It's AB 1384 O'Donnell. This is the bill that was proposing to provide limited liability protections to LEAs related to COVID-19. That bill is unfortunately dead. It did not meet legislative deadlines to continue moving through the process. It was never even scheduled for a hearing. It needed to be heard in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and that committee decided not to take up any of the liability bills that they received. The Senate had developed a policy of not hearing any gut and amend bills. So those are bills that have had their contents stripped and replaced with new proposals midway through the legislative process. So unfortunately, that is not moving forward. That is something that CASH did support. And we encouraged our members to contact the committee to schedule that bill for a hearing. There were lots of other efforts, including an effort in the Senate by Senator Rubio to try and encourage the rest of her colleagues to take up that bill, and it did not materialize in a committee hearing. That doesn't mean that the issue is entirely dead. As Nancy said, liability is certainly something that a lot of folks are looking at, and the issue may come back in a special session or in another way, but for now that vehicle is not moving forward. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is SB 820. That is the new education trailer bill that has been introduced. We saw it in print for the first time on Monday. So we've been going through all 135 pages to identify the items that are significant to the school facilities community. And there are quite a few. So our team today wanted to run through some of those with you. Just where we are with process on that bill, as Nancy mentioned, the legislature is working towards their deadline of next Monday. This This bill is a little bit special though. It is not subject to that same deadline. They can go past that deadline for bills that go into effect immediately or for urgency bills. And then of course, there's a separate provision for a special session if the governor does call that to work on a specific issue. We have no way of knowing if the legislature will go past that August 31st deadline for something like SB 820 or other trailer bills that are not subject to that same 8/31 deadline. The governor's deadline to sign bills a month from then is still in place though. So that does not change depending on whether or not it's an urgency bill. So some of the provisions in SBO, and last thing on 820 is that a lot of times when we see trailer bills introduced, they are introduced once we've got agreement from both the Senate, the Assembly, and the administration. That is not the case with the current package of trailer bills that were introduced this week. There are about 6 bills, and the Assembly has indicated that it's an agreement between the Assembly and the Senate, and that the administration does still have some concerns with some of the components in these bills. So in SB 820, we do know, for example, that the governor and the administration do have some concerns with some of those provisions. So again, we don't know if we're going to hit that 8/31 deadline or what the prospects for this are, though I will say that trailer bill has been the easiest way to do the biggest policy changes this year given the time constraints. Trailer bills only require a majority vote, even though they do go into effect immediately, and they are bills that are intended to implement provisions of the budget and make policy changes to do so. So the first thing to watch out for in SB 820 is a pretty significant change to the Williams inspections. And this is something that our County Office of Education friends are gonna really be affected by if it does go into effect. County offices are annually inspecting the deciles 1 through 3 schools for 2 primary reasons: to look at the sufficiency of textbooks, but to also look at facility conditions that affect health and safety of students and teachers. So what this bill is proposing to do is to provide some exemptions for the 1920 period that was affected by COVID-19 related school closures, and also to provide exemptions for the 2021 school year. So specifically on Williams inspections, it would waive the requirement that the county superintendent of schools needs to conduct site visits. And this would be waived for any school that does not offer in-person instruction from March 2020 to June 2021 inclusive. If they do elect this option, they need to plan to visit the schools as soon as possible when in-person instruction does resume. Or if that's not possible, to prioritize those schools for the Williams inspections the following school year. The annual report that is required as part of this Williams inspection process may also be drafted using means other than site visits. So think things like surveys of administrators or teachers. And then the last significant component here for our Williams inspections is a waiver of the requirement that 25% of those inspections need to be unannounced. Unannounced inspections would still be permitted, but only if in compliance with state and local public health orders. So this is different than what I reported last month, where we received guidance from CDE that Williams inspections were proceeding pretty much as usual, with the exception that you did not need to have students present in order to conduct those inspections. Again, this has not been approved. It has not been signed by the governor yet, but because it is budget trailer bill, there's a pretty good chance that this could go into effect, and we will keep you updated as soon as we know more. A couple of other really quick items in SB 820. We talked to you earlier this spring about efforts to provide a school reopening block grant to help with costs associated with reopening schools in the COVID-19 world. There was about $5.3 billion that were provided to LEAs instead for a learning loss mitigation grant. And there's a proposal in SB 820 to expand the use of those funds to allow them to be used to address health and safety concerns, including PPE, supplies to sanitize and clean LEA facilities and school buses, and also public health testing. And then there's also provision in there that says other related needs related to health and safety. So this is something that Cash supported, something that we were asking for, and we're excited to see that authorization in the proposed SB 820 bill. The current authorization for those funds is essentially learning supports, extending the instructional year by days, or extending your day, and then additional services for pupils and integrated supports like health, counseling, mental health, professional development, as well as meal programs. So this is adding those health and safety supplies, PPE, that type of thing. Last thing that I'm going to talk about in detail, there are also some changes to our school facility program audit. So this is the new audit process that started in 2018-19. Couple of things here, that there are changes to the timeline for submitting the audit. There are changes in the role of the state agencies, and then there is a new limit for very narrow circumstances on appeals. So the auditor would now file the audit within 60 days of completion of the audit. There's no timeline in the current statute. And the collection agency for any audit findings is changing. So it's currently CDE, it would go to OPSC. And the controller, who is the one who put together the audit guide and receives the audit from the auditor, the controller is the one that notifies OPSC of any audit findings and adjustments, and they need to do this within a specified time frame, which is 60 days from when they receive the audit and have determined that it conforms with the audit standards. So big change there in the agency roles. And then related to the appeal, there are certain adjustments that would no longer be appealable to the Education Audit Appeals Panel. These are not audit findings, but they are adjustments that are related to funds that have been determined need to go back to the program. So these are things like site acquisition costs and unspent funds or savings for the charter, the career tech, hardship, and substantial progress components of projects. So that's out there. I think that's something that we're a little bit concerned about being premature, given that these are the preliminary stages of this audit program. We're wondering exactly what problem is trying to be solved. But again, this is moving really quickly, and we just saw the language on Monday. So a couple of other items that my colleagues are going to speak to. There are some changes proposed for surplus property, and as well as for routine restricted maintenance and the definition of instructional materials. So I'm going to kick it back over to Nancy, and if there are any questions that pop up in the chat, we'll address those as they come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. So really quick on a couple of the provisions of SB 820, starting with surplus property. So although the state typically tries to disincentivize LEA land sales, the budget bill passed in a couple of months ago, did create a narrow temporary exemption that was granted really at the request of education associations looking for a temporary, a one-time infusion of cash to their general funds. So this exemption is effective through July 2024. And what the budget did is it allowed LEAs to use the proceeds only of their property sales for general fund purposes. So this is the net amount only. What is new in this trailer bill, this cleanup trailer bill, is that property that did not previously operate or was not purchased for the purpose of conducting instruction or childcare is exempt from that 711 Public Advisory Committee requirement. The budget still requires a plan to be discussed and adopted in a public meeting. What is also new is that the requirement to make an offer to various public agencies, which it already exists in statute, may be met by making a simultaneous offer to all of these public agencies. We think that they meant a simultaneous notice of availability, not so much simultaneous offer. So that's something that we're gonna watch in implementation. Whether or not there will be a ding to eligibility for taking advantage of this provision, the statute is silent to it, but that's something, of course, we're gonna monitor. The budget bill did reduce hardship eligibility by the amount of those proceeds. What is new in this cleanup bill is that it exempts ERP projects from that. Second item in this bill I'm going to talk about is a change, a very slight change to the definition of technology-based materials, which, among other things, it says including but not limited to laptop computers and devices that provide internet access. There's no obvious impact, but that's another area we're going to continue to monitor. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleague Ian to discuss RRMA.
Thank you, Nancy and Rebecca, for those updates. Before I go into that, I also wanted to follow up a little bit on the Williams piece in SB 820 that Rebecca talked about. That's a pretty big issue also, obviously, for the maintenance network, for the maintenance folks. So we're looking at that as well. The counties are certainly kind of in the lead. That's their wheelhouse, but certainly the maintenance folks are looking at that as well. I have, and I know some of my colleagues have received questions about this, basically, hey, what's going on with the Williams inspections in this era? And so it looks like we're sneaking up a little bit on some more specificity. So we'll be working from the maintenance end on that as well. So as my colleagues had mentioned, SB 820 is a pretty significant bill, moving pretty fast. It also contains a piece in related to routine restricted maintenance that should be noted. As we know, kind of quickly, the history of the routine restricted is certain exemptions, pass-throughs, things like that, and so those are not unknown. What this bill does, it exempts essentially the CARES Act funding. So if you receive CARES Act funding, that is not to be figured in the routine restricted calculation. As you know, the maintenance network is very sensitive about these types of exemptions and so on. But we really do see this one as a legitimate pass-through, right? This is one-time money for a specific use, and so while we would like as much money from everything as we can get, we see this as a legitimate. The other piece, just as a reminder, in the May revision, there was also another exemption to the routine restricted calculation, and that was for a 2-year STRS deal that was made in the legislature, approved by the governor, that exempted those funds from that calculation, and that was last year and this year. So really, that was also we think a legitimate kind of a pass-through and carryover. So that does not mean that we think obviously the routine restricted and the current maintenance funding is adequate. But again, on both of these fronts, we see this as this kind of extraordinary circumstances, I think, that we're all facing. So if you have questions about that, certainly let me know. You folks know how to contact me. The other one that I'm going to talk about is a very significant bill. It's Assembly Bill H41 by Assemblyman Ting, and it has to do with energy efficiency, basically through air quality and water quality. So more specifically, it's grants to improve, to inspect, and make investments in HVAC systems. If you know anything about cash this year, you know we focused a lot on this, and we're going to continue to do that. That's all good stuff, but this is the funding for it, and so it's a significant piece. Basically, the ones that we're really looking at is what is called the School Reopening Ventilation and Energy Efficiency Verification Repair Program. It's a long title to a good program. Basically, it requires the Energy Commission, in collaboration with utilities, to develop a program to distribute funding for, and I'll read this, for testing, adjusting, repairing, upgrading for energy efficiency and air quality. And so basically, grants will be available as soon as possible. That's another piece in here. It requires that the CEC develop these guidelines by May 1st, 2021, and that as soon as this thing is going, that they start administering the grants. So they're doing it basically as fast as possible, and this will run for 3 years. We believe it's at or about a $2 billion program, something like that. We don't know exactly. So it's a significant investment. Also involved in this is basically a parallel program just like that to be developed to upgrade non-compliant water fixtures. This has to do with the water quality issue. I kind of look at it as a follow-up on AB 746, the testing and so on. Some folks realize that they part of it is the fixtures and stuff that they, in addition to the water fountains and some of the lower hanging fruit that they needed to make investments in. I will note that this was in Prop 51, so which of course unfortunately was not approved, but that was a big discussion in that venue as well. So those are two major pieces that we hope, which is the reason why we hope this will pass. Obviously, CASH and the Cash Maintenance Network is in strong support of this. One more piece I wanted to say about it is that there were some last-minute amendments, somewhat significant, worth talking about. It would prioritize schools that have a boundary that is within 500 feet of the closest traffic lane of a freeway or busy corridor. That's not unknown to us. That's essentially the CDE site guidelines, and it's also well known that those areas have an increased risk in air quality because of the increased particulates, so that makes some sense. And some other issues related to the contractor's license board and so on. So we are strongly supporting this. The time is short. We think we're pleased that the coalition is broad. There's a lot of folks pushing for that. Certainly CASH is doing that, but we're trying to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And so we're asking some of our folks to contact Senator Jim Bell, Senator Glazer, Senator Wachowski in the San Francisco Silicon Valley Bay area, as well as Senator Roth in the Riverside area, to let them know how important this type of funding would be for reopening, but not only for reopening, for going forward and operating healthy schools and making investments in clean air and water. So if there's anyone out there that can hear the sound of my voice and can help with that, that would be very much appreciated. Last thing, I know my time is short, remind folks that the Cash Maintenance Network has developed a guidebook to cover a lot of these, all of these things related to reopening, certainly indoor air quality. And we have been and will continue to do more programming on this as we dive deeper into it and we learn more, right? Some of the science has changed, and so we're adjusting for that as well. Specifically on September 3rd, CASH has a workshop focused on indoor air quality, really getting down into the nitty-gritty, so that should be a good one. In the process of developing the agendas and programming for the fall forum, and so we'll include that as well. And finally, in November, the Cash Maintenance Network is going to have a series of 4 deeper trainings, basically built around this guidebook that we've done. And so we'll get more information and dates on that, but we're in the process of developing that as well. And we're excited to be able to have more time and to develop a little more depth into these issues, particularly in the fall, when we'll know more about what folks are doing. So with that, I believe that concludes my presentation. I'll look in the comments if there's anything, and also everyone knows how to contact me if you have questions about this. So thank you very much. Thanks, Julie.
So Ian, yeah, there is a question there. If you want to open up the chat box, it's on AB 617. The CARB is requiring MERV 14 or greater for the air quality grants. Most older systems cannot run these filters without the creation of other concerns and possible failures. I've asked them to reconsider MERV 13, which is met similar filtering that of MERV 14 and flow capacities that are equal to MERV 11.
That's an excellent question, and I would say, as we talk about air quality in the real world, that's the question that we encounter the most from the M&O folks, and it's a legitimate one. In other words, the research shows in a legitimate way that the higher you go up in the MERV scale, so to speak, it's better. But the question is, what if you have old the system capacity, can it take the air drops and the air exchanges, the air differences and so on? Those are the types of issues that we're delving more into. There aren't right answers right now. We have in our book and our references, we of course do a lot of referencing of CDC and so on, but one of the best right now is the ASHRAE guidelines. They have some stuff that's out recently, I mean, within the month or so. We've posted that. That's right now the best place to look. But there's no place to go out and just find the right answer. We're kind of struggling through that. That's why when we put together our guidebook, we had folks from academia doing the research, as well as our M&O folks going, hey, but wait a minute, I'm all in for MERV 13s, but maybe it doesn't work, and there's the cost and so on. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't just say, hey, here's the answer. But I'll tell you, it's the question we're hearing the most about. Tom Duffy and I were just talking about that on, what is today? On Monday, as we're planning these issues. And I know we're definitely getting into that on the September 3rd agenda. So yeah, so stay tuned. Sorry, I don't have more, but we will. So.
All right, great.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, Nancy, I think you're back up and you're going to give us a little update on School Energy Coalition.
I am. Here I am, 1 second. So quick update on behalf of the School Energy Coalition. I'll start with another one of the bills that did not make it, unfortunately. That is AB 1001 by Assemblymember Ting. This is the School Disaster Resiliency Act, school bonds. And despite a great deal of advocacy on the part of SEC and many of our partners, that bill is actually dead right now. Sorry for the noise. We have also been active on behalf of AB 841, which my colleague Ian covered. Thankfully, that bill is continuing to move forward. We are continuing to advocate. That bill is currently on the Assembly floor. We do expect it to pass and go over to the other house and ultimately end up on the governor's desk. So we will continue our advocacy and encourage you to participate in that. And that is all I have for the ledge update. I think that's the conclusion of the ledge update, Julie.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we have Californians for School Facilities, and Dave Walrath is going to give us a quick update on that. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Julie. Very quick update. Congress is out of session. Will not be back until after Labor Day. The effect of the delay, because they have not looked at their next stimulus, is that we'll continue our efforts for passing in the Senate the Rebuild America Schools Act. However, it's looking more and more like that will be in October or after the election, because we expect there will be a special session of Congress after the election. So we are continuing that advocacy. It is the multi-billion-dollar federal program for both grants for school construction, as well as tax credit bonds for school construction and renovation. And that's the update.
Okay, let me jump back on here. All right, next, if you'll move to the next slide. Thank you, Dave. Very appreciative. We've got Jeff Becker, and he's going to come and talk to us about the 42nd Annual Conference.
Good morning, Julia. Good morning, everyone. We are in full swing in planning for our conference in Palm Springs on March 1st through 3rd. The Planning Committee is meeting later today. We're going to be reviewing the matrix of our education sessions, as well as looking at our mini conferences. And the big update is that attendee registration will be open on the CASH website in September, so a short week or two away. And we'll also be having sponsor and exhibitor information on the website coming very soon. So we're excited about having the 42nd conference in person in Palm Springs. And at the same time, we know that these are very uncertain times, and you folks are going to have a lot of questions about that. So our commitment is to update the website as that planning process progresses so that we all have the most current information regarding how the conference will be held. And we're excited that at this point, we're still looking forward to being together in person in March in Palm Springs. So Julie, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Great news, Jeff. I think we're all looking forward to getting back together and, you know, having people time again, which would be great. And March in Palm Springs is a great time of year.
Yeah, I'm ready for some people time, some safe people time. So we'll keep an eye on the situation, but looking forward to being down there.
Great, great, great news. Okay, if you've got an upcoming RFP or RFQ or a job opening at your district or firm, please utilize the CASH Professional Opportunities job board to reach a wider audience and a more diverse audience. So CASH members can log in to the CASH website and post their job and RFQ and RFP information there. Before we move to the next slide, Caitlin, can I get you to move back to slide 3? We kind of bypassed it a little bit. I want to make sure we hit that right there on upcoming events. So tomorrow is the CASH webinar, and it's the COVID-19 funding, identifying allowable expenses. And it starts at 11 a.m. And it's an opportunity to hear from school district leaders on identification of COVID-19 related funds received or promised to LEAs. So how much funding is going to be properly expended and accounted for, as well as anticipation of future audits that may go with that funding. So registration is open till about noon today. Hopefully, Caitlin, Sam, maybe we keep it open just a little longer because we're bumping up against that right now. So it should be interesting. Please go click on your CASH email and go on and register for that. So that should be pretty good. All right, now let's go back to our last page here. And so next CASH day is going to be Wednesday, September 23rd. So please join us again. And before we sign off, we did have a new member, new attendee with us today, and that was Clark Forrest, and he's with the Dahlen Group Architecture and Planning. So he's a senior project manager for education. So welcome, Clark. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you'll click back on, maybe join our webinar tomorrow. And if not, we'll see you in September. So with that, I'll go ahead. I want to say thank you to Caitlin and Sam, who are our Zoominar whizzes behind the scene. We so appreciate you guys. And thank you to all of our panelists today. We had Michael and John and Jeff and Rebecca and Nancy, Dave Walrath, Ian. So thank you all for being on there. And I'm seeing some things pop up. So, and Sam's saying thank you as well. So I will let you jump off real quick so you can sign on for the webinar tomorrow. And I hope you've got a great day ahead of you and look for us tomorrow. Thanks. Take care.